Hey, welcome back, and we're live again. Welcome back to the show, Steph. Just to kind of like tell people again what happened. So we did try another live stream just before, but it got shut down. I'm not sure if it's because I forgot to do my settings for adult content. I think I might have set it to made for kids, but apparently you're too hot to handle for YouTube, and your pictures are too spicy for YouTube.
I
So
love it.
we're gonna keep this one PG-13 and clean. I can't show your pictures, unfortunately, but your IG link is in the description. Your website is as well. So as we're talking through it, guys, just get his images loaded. Yeah, like they're worth a look as we're talking through it. There's so much content. There's so much to like break down there. But yeah, let's try it again from the top then, bro. So, my first question is, who is Stephan and what do you do?
So what's going on? It's so funny having time to do
I
this.
know, yeah, just pretend like it never happened.
It's all good. So I'm Steph. Some people think I'm Steve or Stephen, but it's Steph. It's Stefan. So photographer from Manchester. Been in the game probably since 2011. So I've done all sorts of creative stuff, like including I was a music producer at one stage, videographer at one stage, and just kind of fell into photography. So I've been, I don't know, I kind of hate putting titles on anything because we talked about this rebel thing. We'll probably go back to that, but
Yeah, definitely.
so I'm a pro photographer. Um, I've been probably it's probably longer than 2 years. It's probably like more like 3-4 years, but. So yeah,
Amazing.
but like I said to you earlier, I never thought that I was gonna be like professional photographer. It's just something that started out as a hobby. I didn't even know I was gonna be taking pictures of people. It was just really just for a laugh.
That's amazing. And you've been doing it since 2011, and we did talk about how like the landscape has changed. You started off like saying that you used to be like taking pictures of like sneakers and shoes and doing street art and kind of like a hobbyist on Instagram, but now you can actually make a business out of it. And how lucky are we that we can actually be photographers making like a fortune on Instagram, and like you could just even start in your own business. Like the landscape has just changed so much, and like the fact that we can network and just even being able to connect with you for Instagram was just like, you know, a blessing, because it's like you just don't see that from just website searches, do you? Like it's hard to
No.
find creatives without Instagram, which is mad.
Yeah, I feel like I would definitely probably have quit photography by now if it wasn't for Instagram. I
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
got bored with it. I feel like it's just a difficult arena to, I don't know, to be in the creative industry, because it definitely works like with a lot of things is on who you know, and you kind of have to be a bit of an industry insider, and it's like, where do you get your start? How do you get your foot in the door?
That's
That
definitely a topic we're going to touch on today. So that's going to be a really great one to talk about. So, you know, looking at your work, obviously I can't look at it anymore now, which is sorry, but you know, tell people like this is a great way to talk about it actually. Like it's like doing blind podcasts, you know, people who listen to it just, you know, in audio. This is what they experience anyway. But like, you know, just describe to people like what is your style in photography and what you do, and you know how you work with people and what kind of you know, style and aesthetics you do in photography.
um so yeah, I guess we kind of touched on this. So I, for starters, I find it really hard to try and put a, like a title on my style, because I feel like it changes slightly. Um, like it depends on who you ask as well. Like I'm more like, you tell me what you think my style is like, um, and you'll speak to some people and they'll say I'm fashion. You'll speak to some people and they'll say I'm an Instagram photographer,
Mhm.
and that's kind of often a derogatory way. Um,
Right.
you'll speak to some people and they'll say, "I'm just a booty photographer."
Really? Have you had comments like that before?
Um, I haven't as such, but I've had people say, "Oh, you're the guy who takes pictures of girls like half naked," and yeah, that was like someone who owns a brand. I was quite kind of offended by that slightly because I feel like my work's more than that. But if you looked on my Instagram,
Hmm.
that's what you see. So in some ways, I can get where that comes from. So I don't take that too personal. I think people who get art and get my work will see beyond that. Um,
100%. Yeah, I agree. Because like I was just saying, previously that your work has a lot of layers in it, and there's a lot of like concept, there's props, there's lots of like visual arts, that's what I love to like call it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
there's just like a story, like you're saying, like you try and stitch like secret moments in there that only you want to,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
want to play around with, or like bringing out people's personalities. Like just talk a little bit about that, like what are the
Yeah.
things that people miss in your work that say all these like things about
Well,
you.
I feel like the key thing is just like going back to when I was a music producer and I was being managed. There was a lot of control and a lot of being told like you need to be commercial. You need to create this type of music to appeal to the masses. And like when I decided that I would get into photography, I was very much kind of an anti-photographer. I was like, I'm just gonna do everything my way. And I think even when I first started showing like the photography community my images, they were like, "Oh, bro, you've got a lot to learn, and um, you need to be shooting this way. You need to use this focal length. You need to do this and that." And I was just like, "Who do you think you are? Like, do one. I'm just gonna do it how I want to do it. And if I decide I'm not gonna retouch someone to hell till they look like a baby, then I'm not gonna do that. If I decide that I'm not going to remove that dustbin from the shot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to remove it, just so I feel like the hidden message in most of my work is just about youth culture and rebellion and
And being
just,
quite raw and authentic.
yeah, raw and authentic and just censorship as well. Like, what's
Like we
cool.
experienced before.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's take like a typically um, fashion model and like let's have her like smoking weed in a shot. Like what, let's do that. It's stuff like that I really thrive from. But I think
Yeah.
overall my aesthetic is just about being authentic and being raw and you know also the concept of like imperfection as well. Like, I feel like everything you see in the fashion, fashion magazines, well, not so much these days, but maybe at the time, because I think things have moved on. It was all like, you know 6'10", skinny, like white models, and I don't mean that in a racist way, but it's just true.
That was just the
And
mainstream
it's
perception
just the
back then.
mainstream perception of beauty, and I feel like, why does it have to be like that? Why does everyone always have to look perfect? Why can they not
Hmm.
have a scar? Why can they not look like that? And
Right.
why can they not kind of be curvy? Or
Hmm.
why can't a fashion model be sexy? Like, so I'm always just trying to play on that a little bit as well. So
Yeah, definitely. Like on your like feed, you've got so much diversity, all different shapes, sizes, backgrounds, walks of
yeah,
life, and it's like looking at your work. There's like a lot of nuance in there, and it's like if people just see like the lust, it's like that's a very one-dimensional way of looking at your
yeah,
work.
yeah, exactly,
But
yeah,
like when I do see your work, it's like, oh, I can see like there's planning, there's a concept, there's like
yeah,
you've got like these funny humorous moments with like
yeah, yeah,
girls like recalling like vintage moments of like a phone, like an old phone or like a pack of cards, and like the way you sometimes hide like revealing body parts as well, like with a pack of cards where it's like hiding like sensitive areas. I thought that's really clever, and like
yeah, yeah,
it's like you're giving I was like a little journey into like figuring out this person's personality, and like it's not like a page three
yeah,
image like you would
yeah,
see
yeah.
like in a newspaper. There's a lot of like layers to it, so I definitely get it, and I think as artists we appreciate that. But if more and more people see that, I think they'll definitely be able to see like why a
Mo-
lot of people come to you, because like you've got such a high standard of like client base as well, and I think that that just speaks volumes for like the art. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Because like
definitely.
especially with the models you work with as well, I'm sure they live in an industry that you were talking about where they have so much pressure to look perfect, and maybe they just want to come to see you just to kind of like feel like themselves
Yeah,
sometimes.
definitely. A super important thing for me as well is where my aesthetic is more authentic in a sense. I'm not saying it's more authentic than anyone else, but where I feel that it tries to be authentic is where I really have a super intensive kind of selection process where if I don't connect with someone and there's not kind of a mutual like respect, appreciation for each other, and someone's just doing this for the wrong reasons, then I'm not interested. And I don't really
Hmm.
care who that is. I don't like work with people based on following or status or any of that kind of stuff. It's just, do I have a connection with this person? And yeah, I'm quite like that sort of stuff's really important to me, and it comes out in the work. Like the people that you'll see in my images, it's collaborative. It's always collaborative. It's never me going, I want to do this or you should do that. It's very collaborative. So people will, like I said before, when I'm putting ideas together, and I'm doing it more so this year, is curating ideas that I probably wasn't as much last year, but more so this year. It's like I just take a picture. I don't need a mood board. I'll just have one image that I might see in a book or see, from a scene in a film, and just take that and go, right, I want to build like a story around that,
Yeah.
curate an idea. And like I say, it doesn't, for me, stories don't have to have a beginning, middle, and end. It can just be self explanatory by looking at the image, but then also try and put little elements in there that try and get people to kind of gaze at the image a little bit more and go, well,
Yeah.
what else is going on? But then sometimes it is just about the model and trying to make them look as natural as possible in the most flattering light. And that's kind
Yeah.
of my rules, really, and
Yeah,
how I.
I feel like your images are really good, like little set pieces that are like very timeless little moments. Like you said, you're not bothered about capturing like a story, but like it's like little moments that you'd pause in a film and you'd be like, that is a nice still
Yeah,
frame, and like you remember that one image in a film forever. And
that's
it's
it,
like
yeah,
you see like these little set pieces where they look so like, like raw, and they've got that vintage feel to it, and it's just
yeah,
like, like that youthful, rebellious like feeling of like being like a
yeah,
misfit, and it does look really aesthetic. So I'm glad you're thinking about it in that realm, because I think more dimensions like that into photography just separates you more, and like it just makes you more desirable as like a photographer, doesn't it?
mm-hmm.
So I
I
think,
yeah,
yeah, like thinking about photography as art is really important. And I think like you said, like I'm glad you're just not listening to just trends, and you're doing what you're doing. And we'll talk
yeah,
about like the benefits you've reaped in a minute. So yeah, guys, I think now that we're safe, I still can't show your work, unfortunately. I know we're like talking about all these ideas, but just yeah, check out his Instagram and his website. It's just insane concepts and insane ideas that are just well worth looking at and just studying and breaking down, man. Like I'm sure like people must ask you so many questions about like where'd you even like come up with these ideas, but it's like you said, it's very collaborative, isn't it?
yeah. It's very collaborative, but sometimes it's just stuff I'll see on Instagram. I hit save button. Sometimes it is just looking through books or watching films or just sitting down and just really try to think of stuff, or people will give me ideas. And I'll just, like I say, I'll just take. Usually, I know when I'm really inspired by something, I'll see one image, and it'll just be one image, and I'll be like, oh, I really like this picture. Now I want to create something around that concept.
Do
And
models come to you, or do you sometimes reach out to them? Which way does it work?
um, it's a
Like
bit of
I've
both,
got an idea. Like, do they
you know.
come to you with an idea, or do you approach them with ideas?
Well, this is part of my kind of selection process. If people message me, if I look at them and aesthetically I feel like that person's a good fit, I'll even know straight away that this person will fit this idea that I've had in the back, or I will ask just like, well, what is it you want to do? And I feel like that's a way for me to filter out a lot of bullshit as well, because I think if someone comes to you and they want to work with you because they want to create some art, they will have some idea of what they want to do. Um, and yeah, I feel like that's a good indicator if someone is really into your work, and they'll usually just kind of give me a kind of a bit of an idea of what they want to do, and then I'll go with it. But if I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And I go, I don't know. I'm just like, this ain't gonna work. So at that point, my interest goes elsewhere, and unless I've,
Right.
got an idea that will kind of fit with someone. Because it's hard to guess. Like, and one thing, like I say, I'm a big collaborator, and I never want to put anyone under pressure to do something that they're not
Yeah,
comfortable
I
with,
see your point.
especially with the work that I create. It's about protecting myself and making sure that people are invested in an idea, really. So
That's good to hear, and I think that it works both ways. Like if you
yeah,
do, somebody does come with an idea, the images are just gonna speak more volumes. You know what I mean?
I think so, yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
and someone's got to be fun as well. Like I
Hmm.
don't want to I don't want to be stuck in a studio session with a cardboard cutout, like someone who can't move or someone who just
Not
doesn't get my vibe.
speaking, communicating.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
joker, so I like to have fun. And you know, sometimes those moments where it's kind of almost like B-roll when you're shooting a film or shooting a video. It's those moments that were unexpected that I like to capture, and sometimes those can just be the end of the shoot type of moments where we've got the shots that we needed, everyone's a bit relaxed then, and I'll just be like, the models will just do something daft, and I'll be like, oh, I like that, like do that again, and I'll try and capture it, and
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
I'm lucky enough to just be ready, and you just
And the
capture that
timing.
moment,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very unfiltered work. And I like that. It's good. And I think that's what sets you apart from like a lot of different photographers who try and bracket you into like a genre. It's like you can't really do that because you focus on so many different things. So that's
Mm.
good to hear. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, just post them away in the comments. Like I said, can't show you work, but we could still talk about it, which is still good. So another question I wanted to ask you was like you've got like this aesthetic on your photography. Do you work with digital or film or both, and which do you prefer and why?
Oh God. Um, I work with both. I feel like in the more commercial work and for working with brands and stuff like that, you have to shoot digital. I don't think you can get away from that. I mean, there are a lot of brands out there that kind of will just go for an aesthetic. They don't really care whether that's film or digital. I've not had too many bookings to actually like for brands to shoot film, but more. I've had more bookings with clients that just want like that film aesthetic. But for me, for my like personal projects, I shoot a bit of both. But I do prefer to shoot film. Like if I could learn how to process my own stuff and do it all in house and had the
Mm-hmm.
time to kind of
Mm-hmm.
do it all that stuff, I would absolutely just throw my digital sensor in the bin like
Right.
tomorrow.
You know what? Like, how are you finding it right now with shooting film and like having a stockpile? Is it quite annoying that you can't get it
Yeah,
processed
it's
straight
mad
away?
frustrating, bro. It's mad frustrating. But one thing that I purchased the other week was an old school Polaroid camera, like Polaroid's original. Well, they've
Right.
rebranded now to just Polaroid again, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've got one of them, so I've been like taking pictures of my girlfriend at home and stuff like that, and the like results out of that are amazing. And I'm like, and I bought a scanner the other day, so I've been scanning Polaroid. So I'm like, this is like a new thing for me, like getting more into instant. Like I've always shot instax, but to be honest, I look at my instax and like most of them are out of focus because I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm like that with film. Like, I think like the people who have the eye of like shooting film so good in focus are just legends, honestly.
So yeah, I think I'll explore Polaroids and instant film, but yeah, it's mad frustrating. I think since we've been in isolation, I'm on my fourth camera that I've purchased now, and I've got loads of film in my fridge now that is just waiting there. But I'm not too like um, gutted about it. It's just like I feel like when it comes to the time, I'll be ready. Do you know what I mean? When
There'll
when
just be so much content waiting for you as well.
when the
Yeah,
lockdown's lifted, I'll be ready. So
amazing.
So
Andrew
yeah,
says, saw the pile of Polaroids you have to scan. Yeah, you did tease us with like a lot of like,
yeah,
it's just like insane. I'm just like, oh my God, like that's insane.
it's about 300.
That's crazy. So what gear are you using then? If you do shoot with film or digital, what's your go-to cameras?
So I've got a Canon 5D Mark IV. That's
Hmm.
my digital body. I've always shot a Canon system, but I'm not bothered. I think my first camera my first SLR I had, or DSLR, was a Nikon. To me, it's the same shit. Like it makes no difference. Like, but yeah, I mean, obviously for professional work and shooting video as well and things like that. Like the 5D is just the all rounder for me.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not. I like the Sony, but I feel like I would get a Sony in addition to what I've already got, rather
Hmm.
than replace it. And as far as film cameras, man, I've had so many, but at the minute I've been smashing my Canon A1, and I've got a Canon A A1 program. So I kind of go between those cameras really.
So
They
proper cannon boy.
proper Canon boy, yeah, but it's full manual. So
Hmm.
from manual aperture, you turn it on
Everything.
the
Yeah.
lens ring to manual focus, shutter,
Hmm.
everything.
And do you usually have like lighting kits or anything like that?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I just use speed lights. Sometimes I just use a ring light, and sometimes just ambient light. It just depends, really. With film, it's like um, I feel like I enjoy it more when it's natural light, but you need to have the right variables
Hmm.
and the right film speeds to get the best out of it, really. So
Especially in the conditions you shoot, because indoors is very hard to shoot,
yeah,
especially on film. So like you shooting
yeah,
like on quite like high
yeah.
ISOs or.
If you're using flashes and lights, I mean you're all right. You can get away with shooting like 200 speed film and still get really cool images out of it. But yeah, if you need that summer sun to shoot film in natural light, really, and on the indoors,
Hmm.
it's just not going to happen otherwise. So I feel like you'll see like through the winter periods, it's more flash, and then
Yeah.
summer it's more natural light,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and that's kind of how I do things really.
Awesome. So obviously like that's all the gear you use and you switch back between both of them, and obviously it's quite safer
Mm.
to go digital if you're shooting with brands because they always just want that reassurance of like focus,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
sharpness
yeah, yeah,
image and
exactly.
things like that. So that's pretty useful as well. So you work with like a ton of models, and another thing I always wanted to talk about was like, for aspiring photographers who are looking up to you and are also wanting to get into the same style of photography where it's like fashion but working with women and maybe women indoors. What kind of procedures do you normally take when you're shooting, and like how do you build that trust with models, because obviously you're having such like playful concepts.
Oh yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
but have you ever like experienced like any nerves, or like what is this
Oh
like, maybe
yeah.
like when you're first starting out to like how you are now? Like do you just like have like a strategy, or is it just quite free flow, like you're just quite open with it all?
Um, bro, don't let me like fool you. I still get nervous, like pre-shoot nerves, like pre-match nerves. It's just because it just depends how important it is. If for me, everything I shoot is important because at the end of the day, you're involving different people, and you don't want to waste someone's time. So you want to make sure you get good shots. So I'm always slightly nervous before a shoot. But usually, as soon as I meet them for the first, if it's someone for the first time, and once I've said hello, it's like gone. But yeah, I wonder. I'm sure most people have that, like some kind of pre-shoot nerves, like, oh, I hope this is going to work. What am I going to use? Like, how am I going to shoot it? What type of shots am I going to get? Is this model going to be any good? But I think, yeah, going back to the other bit, I think it's just super important to create a safe environment for both. For the point of view of a model, like, obviously the initial thing is age checks, but also just like filtering out, why is this person wanting to do this? You know, looking at their Instagram. Have they shot any underwear before? Are they comfortable in that kind of thing? Is this something that they really want to do? Are they just doing it for clout on Instagram, or are they doing it
Mm-hmm.
because they, need this for their book, or what is the reason? So I'm always trying to filter that out, but then at the same time, it's just understanding boundaries really and respect. Always treat people with respect and dignity and compassion. If someone doesn't want to be shot a certain way, just respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know some photographers will try and push, and I don't. I just more kind of go with the shoot, and whatever someone's comfortable with, I'll just go with. I'll
So
have a set of maybe pose ideas
yeah.
and like that, and I say, well, this is the kind of thing I was thinking. But I think from the get go, I think you just need to be transparent. You need to be clear about what you want to achieve. You need to show a model visually, this is what I'm hoping to achieve, and just make sure they're okay with it. And I think as long as you can do that and you're not a creep,
Yeah.
I think you'll be all right. I have a girlfriend that I respect, and if I'm doing something that's a bit saucy, sometimes I will have a conversation with her and go, "Look, I'm doing this shoot."
Mm-hmm.
It's just respect at the end of the day,
Yeah.
respecting them, respecting, that person might have a boyfriend who might want to beat me up because, his girlfriend wants to shoot some laundry that he's not comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with. So
Right.
I just do the checks like, are you okay with this
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of things. But also just from a privacy perspective, if I shoot someone, if I'm gonna post something on Instagram that maybe that model might not be comfortable with, I
Right.
will always check in and just say, you okay with posting this?
Mm-hmm.
um, and stuff like that. So I think it's just respect, really. It's just respect, and obviously just making sure there's a clear boundary.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's good to hear, man, that you've got like a really strong like vetting process, and
oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
like food for thought for like people who are looking to get into it, like all the extra measures, because like it looks like such an attractive field to get into, like the lavish
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
images you
yeah,
get, but there's actually a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes, like you're talking
Mhm.
about. And like speaking of creeps, I know I'm gonna like just take you back into the past for a second, like when
See what I did there?
yeah, when times were a bit simpler, but they still weren't. Like in 2019, when Marcus Hyde got exposed. So, who is Marcus Hyde? Like, do you want to tell people who he is for the ones who don't know? Like,
So all I know about Marcus Hyde is he's the guy who shot some very like raunchy Polaroids of Kim Kardashian, and I think
right. So he was like a big time celebrity photographer, and
yeah, yeah,
I guess he shot like a lot of celebrities in both modest and quite nude formats.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But he had about like a million followers on Instagram, and in 2019, in summer especially, he got exposed for kind of taking advantage of his position, not with the high class models, but especially up and coming, starting out models who were kind of just messaging him, asking him for information on his rates. And I
mm,
think it was like you were saying, like, the way he kind of was just speaking to these models, saying, and it's one of the lines he was saying was, yeah, it's 2,000 for a shoot, or you can send me nudes right now.
yeah,
Here's
yeah,
what I need you to do. And basically, all these screenshots got posted in a massive thread. He got exposed, he got
yeah,
cancelled. But I guess it was the aftermath of that which I found just so interesting, just like unveiling, because it kind of went everywhere, both in
yeah,
America and in the UK. That a lot of women started coming out, in the industry, just speaking about all these favors they were kind of like encouraged to do to get into like positions of like
yeah.
spotlights and trying to get like incentives to like go up in the chain. How did it affect you or your business? And did it affect you at all? Or did it just kind of make you nervous about your kind of genre of photography? And at the time, what were you thinking?
Mm. Um, I mean, I think prior to that or the year before, you had the ship model management stuff come out where it had a list of like all these photographers that are known creeps in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to be honest with that, it didn't affect me at all. It just made me think even more. So I just need to be extra careful with, like you say, the vetting process. And I think as far as like what I was doing hadn't really changed. I just found it disappointing. Like, because Marcus Hyde, I really liked his work up until that point, and I feel like when these things come out about these photographers, it's just disappointing. Like, it puts you off, and I then start to think like, what am I doing? And I bet at some point someone is looking at photographers like me and going, "Oh, I bet you're a creep too," without even knowing me.
Mhm.
I felt like we'll probably get judged, but in terms of photographers like me or some of my friends that shoot like me, it hasn't affected anything. Um, I think it's the good thing that's come out of that is just highlighted it that you know you can't get away with these things, and you'll be your career will get ruined if you behave like a creep,
Yeah.
basically. Um, I mean, I just thought it was disgusting behavior on his part, and it just shows like you know people's egos and where they're at, and you know I'm very much about just giving everyone an equal opportunity and treating everyone the same. It doesn't matter for me if you've got a million followers or 200 followers. Like, if you fit my aesthetic and I want to work with you, I'll work with you on that basis. Um, and I will more just dismiss people really if they just come across as rude or demanding, or if I get a bad vibe. And it's the same with brands. If a brands are just being difficult from the beginning, it's going to be a difficult ride. So I'm not going to do that. Um, and there are unfortunately some young impressionable girls out there that will just do stuff and post stuff on Instagram for attention, and I would rather stay away from that. So it makes no sense for me to be involved in it. I'd rather just work with people who are in the field, who are professionals.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's just disappointing. But like, unfortunately, in our in I guess in my genre of photography, you hear about this stuff pretty regularly.
Mhm.
I mean, my advice to models would be to do background checks, like look at that person's feed, you know, contact maybe some models that he's worked with, ask them what their experience is. Like, I would love to see some kind of process where you almost have to have a license, to shoot a certain type of photography.
That would be
You know,
quite interesting, having like a license
I
to
love
shoot.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, license. Like, you've got to have a card, almost like
Mhm.
what do you call it?
A driver's license.
Like almost like a driver's license, or what do you call it when you work with kids?
Oh, CRB check.
Yeah, CRB check. Yeah, like introduce that.
Yeah,
I think that'd
that'd be a really interesting one as well, actually. Yeah.
it protects everyone, because at the end of the day as well, like, you know, I'm working in a situation where sometimes it's just me and a model. Like,
Yeah,
what
exactly.
what's protecting me? Like,
100%. That's what I think. Yeah, a lot of people who are looking to get into your genre should really think about, because there'll be probably like a lot of young and impressionable people thinking, oh, it might be really attractive with the lifestyle
yeah,
you get,
exactly.
but obviously,
Yeah.
like, sometimes you're always
Especially if
walking
you're
on like
new.
eggshells.
Especially if you're new. Even just like, I think 2 days ago, I had a friend of mine, a client who's become a friend, and obviously we didn't get to work together because of this situation at the moment. And this is a girl who is actually been quite poorly, and she wants to explore and experiment with different things. And I think she set up a shoot with a friend of hers who was a photographer. I don't think I must have rumbling. And I think this guy tried it on with her during the shoot,
Oh
and she
God.
was just
During
like,
the shoot. Oh my
during the
goodness.
shoot, yeah. And I was just like, she was saying, oh, I felt like I was really naive, and this and that and this, and I think it's really difficult.
That's just
Um,
really bad. Yeah.
yeah, I told her like she shouldn't feel, like she's stupid or naive, but these are the things that I would advise you to do: is do some background checks.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, do some background checks.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
it's
easiest way. And also, just call it out. Don't call these photographers out on their bullshit, man. They shouldn't get away with it.
yeah, 100%. I
Put it
agree.
on Instagram. Put them on Instagram is
It
what I
did
think.
happen last year, which is why I brought it up, because a lot of going from like America, like photographers being exposed, like a lot came out in Manchester as well, and
Oh
I was
yeah,
just,
yeah, in Manchester.
and yeah, and I just saw threads and threads
What
on
you
Instagram
want, baby?
stories. It was just like, it was just, like it was scary because I just thought,
Yeah,
obviously, like I shoot mainly outdoors, but I was just kind of like just nervous as well. Like, I've got to really like step up my game for like just making sure like for my safety and their safety. So I bring like assistants on shoots now and just make sure
yeah,
like I'm just filming behind the scenes just because
yeah,
it's an extra way of getting content, but it's also like your alibi as well at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. Or
Uh,
take a friend with you to a
yeah,
shoot.
or I just tell them bring a friend,
Yeah, bring a friend. Yeah,
that's even better because I just feel a bit
yeah.
more confident that way. So yeah, I think there's so many ways we can get around like these little mishaps, but I'm glad that the culture we live in now is much better. I hope, and like
Oh,
there's just a lot more like confidence for people to speak up, and I think it's a good field to be in if you have the mental maturity like you and your friends, like there's just so much, there's a lot of rewards that you can reap from it.
yes.
And speaking of rewards, which is a nice little topic going off, like how did you get to working with Off the Rails Mag, like you
Oh, okay.
like, so you talked about your journey, like, and now you're reaping the rewards for it. So, like, what is Off the Rails Mag, and how did you start working for them?
Okay, so Off the Rails Mag was a magazine put together, and I think it was started by um, Manchester photographer Matthew Comer. I don't know if you know who Matt is or have seen his work. Well, he started it, and I feel like I've seen like the little story about it, and I think how it started was he was somewhere in LA, and he basically took some shots of some like skateboarders, and something around them like being on rails, like like doing their like
Right.
on skateboards,
So you
and
coined the name, the
yeah,
Rails.
that's kind of how the name came about, and I think the the kind of main message about Off the Rails is again that whole misfits thing and being off the rails a bit, and I feel that's probably where my work fits in really well with what the magazine represents, and I think it just started out as really with Matt, and then like a team of or a collective of creatives really that put it together. But a lot of people think the magazine is actually like an American magazine, but
It's got that
comes
vibe, hasn't
it's
it?
got a
Like,
vibe, yeah. But it comes out of Manchester, and
that's so good to hear, man. Like,
yeah, a lot of the photographers that are part of the team are like based in LA and New York, and then we've got like parts of the creative team in London, and then obviously the main photographers in the UK, I think, are like me and Matt now. But it's just like a really cool group of like super talented people. So I mean, Matthew, who he's basically the main editor for it. It kind of started with my relationship with him, and I'm not even sure how long ago it was. It was probably about, was it even last year? I don't know. Time flies. I think it was like last year or the year before. Um, he invited me. He just DM'd me and said, "Bro, like, I want to meet with you to speak with you about something." It wasn't just me; it was a few like creators from Manchester, and we all went and met with Matt, and he was basically discussing how he wanted to start a new magazine for just like Manchester creatives. Anyway, it didn't quite work out, but I got to meet him, and we just built a relationship from there, really. And with him, he's very well established, in fashion, but also in the genre of the kind of stuff that I do. And yeah, he just kind of looked out for me a lot, and sometimes it was a bit annoying, but I understand why he did it and what his kind of like vision, I guess, was in the end. He'd just like chip in and be like ask me a question, and Matt's blunt, like he's straight to the point. So he'd be like, "Bro, what's the story behind this picture?" Or or if I put something on, he'd be like, "Bro, take that down. That's going to annoy photographers." And like with having the respect that I have for him, I would listen to him because obviously he was probably part of my inspiration, like not that long ago. So our relationship just started there really, and we run into like the thing of we end up shooting a lot of the same models. Us, we're both into film photography,
Mm-hmm.
and then where I would be having a shitty day and I would vent that on Insta, he'd come on and he'd give me advice, and he said to me like, I really want to get you in the mag, and he just was like, submit loads of stuff to me. So I sent him loads of my stuff, and he was actually like, "It's too sexy. It's too sexy." And I was like, "What?" um, and yeah, he just really, really like gave me a lot of constructive feedback in that sense. So our relationship sparked from there, and we just kind of talk here and there, and he got me published, and I think I got published in Off the Rails like 3 times.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which was pretty sick, and I'm not sure if anyone else from Manchester has. And yeah, just from there, really, it was just a very organic um, friendship and relationship. And yeah, I think it was earlier this year. The Off the Rails account messaged me and said, "Oh, we want to meet with you to discuss some things." So I went and met with them, and they just said, "Do you want to be part of the team?" I was like,
Yeah.
let me think about it. So we discussed a few things like, what my role and responsibility would be, how I'd fit into the team, and like future plans. And the kind of like the main thing would be working on the actual Off the Rails clothing brand and also the magazine. So from an editorial point of view, along with a lot of other stuff, but I don't want to go into it just because it's all a bit of a surprise,
Yeah.
and it's more stuff we're gonna pick up when COVID's over.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. Well, I'm excited to see that, man. Like, and I'm
but
glad like
it's
it's
going to be
branching out.
exciting, and yeah, there's definitely, even since I've been off, I've been doing a lot of work to try and get things ready for the new issue, which I think is issue 16.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not an ETA on it just yet, but we're putting that together, and I think I'll probably get in trouble now, but I think it's just going to be a digital version
Mm-hmm.
for now because of the current
Right,
situation.
yeah, because you can pick it up in like retailers, and like I was checking on the website and I was like, man, like I should go pick up like in Magma in Manchester, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you never know, might see some of your work like in when the issues
Yeah,
that come.
hopefully, man.
That's
Hopefully.
gonna be great. But 100%, you've got a magazine underneath your belt, you've got brands, you've got clients, and would you say it's just all part of just kind of like putting your foot into like different avenues and just trying to make sure like you're always like available for like different kinds of like fields to like grow your own brand image?
Yeah, I mean, part of being with the team is like a kind of a bit of a like a management sort of element as well. So they'll be finding work for me as and putting me like with their agency. Well, I'm part of signed with their agency
Mm-hmm.
now. So that's part of it. But also the stuff that comes in through the brand, like the partners that we have, and obviously the team that's available. Because it's not just photographers; it's like creative, directors and like graphics people and stylists and all sorts. So
Yeah, there must be a lot that goes into it.
yeah, and the relationships that I have with a lot of brands and agencies and partners as well. So there's a lot, and it just came. I kind of joined at a really bad time. It was literally 2 weeks before lockdown, so
Oh
a lot of
man,
the stuff that we were
it's on
just
hold at the moment.
starting to plan, it kind of just hit up, it's on pause now. But it's all exciting stuff. But like, yeah, I can't wait for us to be over so we can go
Yeah.
back to it. But it's been good. I mean, I speak to the guys regular. I've not spoke to him much last week, but up until then, it was almost daily, like conversations about stuff. And there was just a bit of work I needed to submit last week, and quite a bit of work actually, which yeah kept me up late one night to get that sorted out. But yeah, it's exciting. It's still exciting. It's just bad timing. But
Hopefully we'll all get through it soon, and then you'll be back in time. So, another question I wanted to ask was, what do you think of the current new FaceTime shoots? Because obviously, like you're saying, we all kind of stopped at a bad time for photographers, but people are also kind of reinventing ways to still be creative. I know,
Yeah,
like you've like had a chance to do like the FaceTime shoot yourself. Like, what do you think about the new trends, and like, what's your experience with it? And like, what do you think the next trend might be for like photographers trying to like wait out the pandemic?
the pandemic. I actually like the FaceTime thing. I thought it was a really, really clever idea.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, and I did a few and I enjoyed them. Um, I think for me, I just got to a point where I decided I've kind of had enough of this. And it was more so, to be honest, like one thing that did my head in a bit, it was I just kept getting message after message from photographers asking me like, how do you do FaceTime shoots? And I was just like, have I suddenly become like the main consultant on how to do a FaceTime shoot? Like,
Yeah.
information's out there, like just go on Google or YouTube. That's what I did. So that kind of did my head in a bit. But also I like try to beat time zones. Like I was trying to, stay up to try and FaceTime people in Australia and Malaysia and different places. And I just couldn't stay up, or things kept going wrong, or the connections were dropping. So there was um, a lot of elements that just weren't going well for me doing them. So I had success in getting a few done, but then I don't know. I think just because of how things are now, people being at home, maybe their mental health is not in the best place, or people's days are out of sync, so they're getting up
Mm.
later. But I just felt, for me personally, I wasn't really getting that. We're going back to what I was saying about that kind of that commitment and that enthusiasm to kind of want to do it. I just felt like people weren't that bothered. So when I would have things scheduled in, people canceling the day before and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it didn't work for me, because I'm just very much a person. Once I'm on something, I'm like
Hmm.
120%
Yeah.
good to go for this thing, and
Definitely, definitely.
so that coupled with, like I say, just the mithering from other photographers just led me to that point where I was just like, you know what, I can't bother with this. So I've done my bit. I feel like I've done it to the best I could have. I'm gonna leave it now. So I'm not saying I won't do any more, but for now I'm just taking a back seat and just enjoying watching other creators be
Yeah.
creative. And I just feel like if I'm spending a load of time putting in all these concepts, these are concepts that I could be saving and trying to put into something when this is over.
Hmm.
So why try and do it under
Like
under
tough
the
circumstances and like
yeah,
lighting conditions and technology.
yeah, because it's not easy. Trust me. Like you try to guide a model, like, and you can't be there physically to show them what you want them to do,
Oh,
and you
to
can't,
try and get the angle you want as well, because
yeah, you
the
can't
amount of
get
time you're moving the camera and like things like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And just when and then you may have a dropout in connection, and the
Hmm.
picture quality's not that great.
Oh my God, yeah, I bet that must be like, oh.
Yeah, so it's quite difficult. There was one shoot that I did, and the quality was so bad. We just decided to do it again, and then we
Hmm.
did it again, and it was cool. But yeah, it was very like hit and miss. Like some stuff was an absolute success. I was really happy with, and some stuff just didn't go as well as I wanted it to. So, and I feel like, speaking to model friends, I think they're getting a bit frustrated with being constantly asked by photographers to do FaceTime shoots. So I don't know if it's the trends kind of wearing thin a little bit on everyone. I'm not sure, but um, definitely a circle of people I'm speaking to, they're just like, oh, I'm not doing any. Like models are going, I'm not doing any more. I've had enough. I'm sick of people asking me.
Think we're just
Uh,
getting the itch to go back out again, aren't we?
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't discourage anyone from doing it. I just didn't have the best luck, I would say, with it. And yeah, I'll just rather now take those concepts and the time that I've got,
This
do some
plan.
research, do some reading, plan, because this isn't going to last forever. It may
Yeah,
last for a long
hopefully
time, but
we'll be out sooner than later.
exactly, yeah. So I'm gonna, you know, be prepared when this is lifted, to be able to just hit the road like running kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
full force.
yeah, but in terms of like, I feel like the FaceTime shoot will advance. I feel like some company or another out there will cotton on that this is a thing. And I was talking about this with one of my photographer friends from London, and he was saying, yeah, someone will have some kind of tripod that you can control from this end
They
or
probably
something
already
like
have it
that.
like in
Yeah,
Japan,
it's
like with the
probably
amount of
out there.
technology, so or like a drone like you can control and have a DSLR like stuck onto
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah, something like that. Yeah, so
yeah.
I feel like it's an amazing thing, and it's giving creatives the opportunity to connect with you
Yeah.
know people across the world. Really, that
Yeah,
maybe
that's a really good point as well. I think that's so
yeah.
good.
So I think it's a good thing. Just for me now, and where I was at, I'm kind of taking a step back from it, and maybe I'll pick it up again. But it's very difficult as well, and I think it's quite a personal thing as well. Not to I don't want to sound like I'm having a go at models, because I'm not. I just think it's quite a personal thing to invite someone into your house as well. Because you are really like, you someone is loading up FaceTime and you're seeing that what their house looks like and stuff. So it's quite a personal thing. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things to think about. It's not just as easy as you can just
I
message
think
someone.
the FBI is watching just in case. Like what
Exactly. Yeah,
you never
yeah.
know, you never
You
know.
never know. So,
Never know, 100%.
and not
Yeah.
everyone's got an Apple phone, so
Yeah, so definitely it's not the same quality everywhere,
not
is
the
there? Like
quality everywhere. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I'm glad people are still being creative during it, and I'm glad you had fun while it lasted on it. And I think I'm just looking forward to seeing what you plan next for your concepts because there's so many good ones, which again I can't show, which is annoying. But like your Instagram just has so many great concepts on there that even on the FaceTime shoots, kind of still showed your artistic sort of like
Right.
nature and like those, key little elements of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
playful seductiveness that you see like in all your other like pictures. That was
Yeah.
still good to see. I was like, oh, this I could just see that you're working that.
I,
So I think
I'm
so. It's like you said,
definitely,
it's
I
like
definitely,
reimagining your work in a new format, isn't it?
yeah, for sure. But I'm gonna definitely shout
Mm-hmm.
Amy Verity. She's part of the Off the Rails team. She's like a creative there, and she was kind of giving me ideas, like,
Right.
because I was talking to her about how I want to sort of like have more curation and more stories in my work, and she was giving me ideas, and she just it was just like a light bulb moment. I think I got one morning and just started having this conversation with her about it. I think it was like 7:30 in the morning, and I was telling her like, oh, I feel like I need to conceptualize my work a bit more. And she was like, oh yeah, well, why don't you try and do this? And it just started a thing where I was like, if I'm going to do a FaceTime shoot, I'm going to have to add a concept to it. Otherwise, it's just going to be pictures of a girl in a bedroom lying on a bed.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. That's true.
So I just tried my best to try and make it as interesting as possible.
100%. I think that's the best way to think about it. Just add layers to it, isn't it?
Mm.
So the last thing I wanted to ask you was, and I think this is like something that everybody wants to also know about the field and genre you're in. Like, what's the first steps of getting your foot into the industry, and how did you find, clients who are willing to come to you or brands? And then, you've already told us about the magazine one, which is a
Yeah,
really awesome story. So like for aspiring photographers who look up to you, want to do similar styles of photography, like what's the first thing they should do and how should they get their foot into the industry?
I feel like with photography, I think you've got to make a decision whether you just want to do it to be creative, whether you just want to create art, or you want to actually make a career of it. If you're thinking about it from a art perspective, like you just want to create art, I feel like it's a longer game. It's going to take a bit of time before what you make or your genre of work becomes like cool, and becomes cool to brands.
Hmm.
And sometimes brands want you to be super commercial. And I feel that if you want to step in the commercial arena, then if you have a brand that you like, then shoot like that brand. And I feel like that that solidifies your chances of being booked with that brand or similar. Like obviously, if you shoot like Nike, you may not get booked by Nike, but you may. But I
Hmm.
feel like I've never tried to do that, but I do think that does work for a lot of photographers.
That's one way. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to get in with those fashion brands, then shoot like those fashion brands. But if you're just really about being sort of being true to your art and maybe your art fits in with what those brands do, just keep doing it. It's really easy for you. But if your work, like me, I would say I'm not really commercial. I'm not commercial. I've just got to kind of stay loyal to what I'm creating
Make
and
it work for you.
oh, yeah, make it work for me. But I would say to get in there, you definitely need to network. Um, don't be shy on Instagram. Don't be afraid to kind of like contact brands or reach out to brands or,
Mhm.
just hit them up and say, oh, make yourself known. But bottom line, you need a portfolio, you need a body of work, you need to be able to show what you can do. Um, again, the rebel in me just thinks, no, I'm just going to do what I'm doing until you
Someone
know,
comes to yeah.
someone comes to me, and it has happened weirdly. Like
Hmm.
some commercial brands have come to me,
Hmm.
and I've said no because those haven't been the right fits for where I want to take my work. So
Right.
yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't. My best advice was not be like me.
Well, like you said, you're very like a niche within a niche within a niche. So I think you've
Yeah,
been like quite fortunate trying to make it work for yourself, and it's
yeah,
worked out.
yeah,
So I'm
definitely.
guessing like you got to find the balance between being somewhat commercial, somewhat of an artist, so you can meet both
Yeah,
ways, right?
yeah. I mean, you look at the big photographers; they have done that. You look at Dave LaChapelle and people
Hmm.
like that, and they have always done their own stuff, but then they've done a lot of commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Like that guy, if you look at his work, it's insane. And then he'll do like a campaign. He did a campaign, I think, was it for like Nokia or Samsung, one of those big
Hmm.
telecommunication companies, and music videos for like these really pop artists. But
Right.
go and do some crazy stuff, and it's just like you can still do that, but you need to be able to demonstrate that you can do it as well. And I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
people see that you can do that, um, that you're more likely to get booked. But again, it's whether you're bothered about being booked or not. I think it's
How
it
you
has,
make it into a living, maybe definitely
yeah. If you wanna make it into a living, I think you need to
think about that
show
side.
you, yeah, you need to think about that side. But in terms of like the sort of stuff I do, I really do feel like way it's worked for me is just kind of working with agencies, doing test shoots and working with different people and try to build something up. And I think for me, probably just networking and like I say, you know, off helping the agencies out and doing stuff, doing a few freebies here and there, getting in with different agencies and building up your portfolio, is so important to demonstrating what you can do really. But yeah, I don't know. It's a funny one. I think everyone's journey is slightly different, but I do think the key thing is networking and just making yourself available really.
Yeah, and just having a strong portfolio. So I think you've given
Yeah.
so much advice there as well, and I think it's just good that everything's worked out for you so well. So, man, thanks so much for coming on the show. Is there anything you want to finish off on? And just like one last thing you want to say to like people who, love your craft, love your style and aesthetics. Like, what's one advice you might give them just to get them through like this moment in time right now, who are
Yeah.
like just itching to go back out and
Oh God.
or just
Yeah.
to go to other people's houses and shoot, or just like you know find motivation again. What advice would you give?
I think the key thing is, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I've not had my ups and downs, but I think just remember this is just a temporary situation, and like let's not forget the bigger picture. You just need to look at the news and look at those stats. And it's difficult to quantify those numbers of deaths and people that have been sick when you're just looking at it on the TV. But I know for me personally, there's people around me, not directly, but like say friends' aunties and friends' uncles that have died during this period. So
That's
for
tough
me,
times, isn't it?
it's a really tough time, and I think everyone that's moaning that they're bored shouldn't forget that. So I think just remember that we're all doing this really to like save lives, and I think just use your time now constructively. You know, if you since I've been in isolation, I've scanned 300 Polaroids. I've um,
That's mad.
organized my camera collection. I'm gonna update my website. I've made sure all my editing's done. I've edited every piece of footage that I've had on
Hmm.
my laptops. I've done all my backups. I've moved everything off OneCloud. I've done basically
Yeah.
I've used my time effectively. Like if you're the type of person that still has a backlog of editing to do, you
Do it
should
now.
give yourself
Yeah.
a
That's true. I mean, it is, yeah, definitely the best side to be productive, and I'm glad you are, man. And just thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I'm excited to get you back on again once everything's back in the swing and just seeing everything that you're doing, in the future. So thanks so much for coming on, and for everybody else watching, yeah, just check out your work, in the description. I just could not get it onto the show today just because our first stream got cancelled because your images were too spicy, but.
it was too lit.
But I think that's a testament to who you are and like, how you don't follow the rules and how you've made it work for yourself. So definitely check, Stephan's work out and, check his website out and you'll be updating that with a lot more new stuff, I bet, as well soon.
Hopefully.
So yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for coming on, man. And I'll see you guys later. Next one. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, bro.
GC on the track, boy. GC on the track, boy. GC on the track, boy.